All right, welcome to the podcast. This is Motivational Memories, and I'm your host, Josh Honko. This podcast, if you've been tuning in, is about lessons that I've learned that I'm leaving for my son. I think these are things that I've learned that are super important. I want him to understand what my morals are, and I want him to understand, what has made me successful, and I want to be able to impart that knowledge just in case I'm not around. Heaven forbid, I'm not sick, I'm not dying, but life is short. So I want to make sure that there's a methodology in which he can receive this information. I think this is also super helpful if you don't have a big brother or if you don't have a dad. Allow me to potentially be that for you. I want to be able to impart knowledge that is unique to maybe this kind of male experience in the business world. This more, I'm a minority in that regard. So I think I have a pretty unique perspective on how the world works, and I hope it's just valuable to people. It's the reason I'm putting it out. Also, for the memories aspect, I want to be able to look back and understand how far I've come, what things I've improved upon, how my mentality has changed. And I think that's valuable to understand for the future. So I encourage you, if you do not have a diary, if you do not have a vlog, do it. It's super valuable. We take pictures of moments and memories. Document what your mentality is, because I think that is equally important. So that's just the spiel of this. I'm working on improving some stuff. I got some lights in. I'm going to get a new camera. I'm also going to do a cool intro video. I want to try to improve the level of this podcast. One, because I think I try to always, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to try to do it the best of my ability. I also, I hope that this reaches more people so that more people are helped. That's really it. And if no one watches it, that's perfectly fine, because frankly, the two big people that this is for, it's for my son. Well, if I have future children, it'll also be for them. And then it's also for me. So if no one watches this and no one gets value but my family, that's perfectly fine with me. All right. So the topic today, I want to go into my career personally and how I've leveled up rather quickly directly out of college. I took a pretty unique path in my career, and I think it served me well. I think it taught me a lot of lessons, and it's helped me get to a point that I'm making, quite a bit of money. So career, just to kind of touch on that, Koa and other kids who are not born yet, if we are blessed enough to have them, you could choose whatever career path you want. I'm not going to judge you in any regard of what kind of professional you want to be, or if you want to be a teacher, or if you want to be a helper. The only time I probably will judge if it's a more risque or something that's not necessarily ethical. I hope that you select something that is ethical and moral, and that you help people. That at the root of everything, I hope that the lessons that I instill to my children is to just help people, regardless of what career path you choose. I chose to go into a field that I thought was stable. I chose to go into a field that I thought was interesting. That does help a lot of people and makes, in my way, and the way I think about it, a big impact. I work in the logistics field. Logistics, in and of itself, seems pretty boring by a lot of people that don't know about it or don't think about it. Right now, 70%, I think it might even be more than that, but at least 70% of all goods in the United States move on a semi-truck, which is like hugely impactful to 365 million people. The majority of the food supply of you name it is impacted because logistics works, and it's not too expensive, and we're always trying to look at ways to improve costs in the logistics field, because the more effective we can do things at cost while still being profitable, it impacts inflation. It really does. The part of cost of goods sold, part of why a milk is $4 is the cost that it took to get from the farm to you. So I think it was greatly impactful to do that. There's also some really great organizations like Wreath Across America that I think is phenomenal, where they literally deliver wreaths to veterans, and put it on their headstones. And I think that's, again, insanely impactful. There's a lot of really awesome things that logistics does to help improve people's lives. Food drives, you name it. Water post a hurricane. I've worked on these type of projects, and it is incredibly rewarding to know that I made sure people got water when their water wasn't turned on. So most people think of logistics as boring. I see it as super cool, and I'm a little bit of a nerd in that regard, because I know the positive impact it can have on people's lives. So I chose that career field because of those reasons. Stability, I think, was really important because I wanted to have a family. I wanted job security. I wasn't trying to go into something super risky, that kind of thing. Like, if the logistics industry goes down, we have much significantly bigger problems in the United States. So that's, again, part of my selection, but also part of it is I found it interesting and it helps people. So I hope that you choose a career path that at least hits those three things, and I hope it's a moral thing, right? Like, I don't want you doing something that would be potentially negatively impacting people. Like, for example, I probably wouldn't go work at an alcohol company, because I know that while I do drink alcohol is delicious, there is an element of people becoming alcoholics, and it's damaging. Like, I definitely would not go work at like a cigarette company. Like, that's my own moral take. So I just hope that you choose that kind of career path. So, regardless of what career path you choose, and there's different ways to kind of advance your career. If you try to go into, medical, teaching, maybe some industries that are a little bit more rigid in what your capabilities are, and you have to get a higher education. Like, one of the biggest ways to advance in the education field is you have to go get more education, because then you're able to teach at higher levels. So those, I think, especially those type of industries, it's pretty clear cut. Like, if you're a teacher and you want to become a professor, go get your PhD. You'll go be a professor. You'll make a lot more money, right? It's pretty self-explanatory of, like, you put in the work, you put in the effort, you educate yourself, you deliver more value, you get paid more. That's the biggest thing. So outside of that, and let's look maybe at more business related, or, and business is much broader, right? You can be in a lot of different fields in the business industry, than just logistics. And I think this is true in the majority of the industries. So business used to take care of people. They used to be very honoring of loyalty. And I think what shifted is remote work, contractors, and the ability. Business started to put a heavier emphasis on what are you capable and what kind of impact are you making financially to my organization. So if I'm coming in as an outside hire to your company, and I have, for example, done 150 or $200 million worth of business prior, and your company's at 20 million, I'm going to get put above people at your company because I've done it. I've seen it. I know how to execute it, and I have an idea and a plan to execute it at your company. And I have a different perspective than probably the people that are already in your organization. And as a business owner, I'm going to put a heavier emphasis on your opinion, because frankly, if my people were already doing it, I wouldn't have to do an outside hire. But clearly, the people I currently have do not have the capabilities to execute what I want to execute, but you do, or you're saying that you do. So I want to give you enough capabilities to do so, right? So that's the stance of the business world. But what that has created is not necessarily an emphasis on loyalty of I've been at the company for 35 years. And in business, 90% of this time, now there's definitely some organizations that don't do this, but most organizations now see you as a number. They see you as what is your individual contributions that are happening to the company. How are you delivering value? How are you increasing the value that you're delivering? Right? So if you frame it up in that frame of mindset, you can very easily paint a picture of how to make more money. So what I did was I honed my skill sets by moving from company to company. I did it every 2 to 3 years. I didn't like to do it. I probably would have done it slower if I had my way, where I would have done every 5 years. But frankly, I built my skill set up on my resume on LinkedIn that I got headhunted. I got people coming to me saying, hey, come work for my company. I love what you've done. And I got more money opportunities every 2 years. Every 2 years. And what I'll do, it's a good thing to kind of understand what your market value is. So like in 2 years, what can you really accomplish? You can bring on more business, so then you have a better understanding of how the market works. You could take some courses, get some certifications. 2 years is a decent amount of time to execute some stuff, right? And improve your market value as an employee. So how you can leverage to get more money at your current company, or if you're at a larger organization, look for another opportunity that maybe fits your new level of skill set, even in the own organization. And also, when you're applying to jobs, even within your organization, it may be in a different geolocation or like a different department, you're helping fill a gap. You're helping fill a gap because you now have a skill set, right? And as a company, you're like, oh, well, I know this person's a hard worker. I know this person have this skill set because they got it here. So if they can help fill this gap, which maybe is a higher level gap, I can backfill and hire them easier than, a higher position. So it's much more challenging to find a good fit. The higher you go up in an organization, it's easier to backfill lower positions. It's just the fact, because there's more people that fall within the capabilities of that skill set. Now it's different whenever the job is difficult, but if the job is a good job and it pays well or pays fair, it's fairly easy to backfill, right? Outside of the constraints of the economy. So you're able to deliver more value. So you'll get paid more money because it's a higher position. The same is true, and I always, every 2 years, try to check, how has my value changed to the market? Should I make more money? And if you put out applications, and LinkedIn has made it, and I don't know if LinkedIn's around for you, but putting out applications through software is a lot easier than it ever has been to check, hey, is my market value? And do it while you have a job. Now, I probably wouldn't be doing it like while you're working, but like after work, maybe send out a few applications and see if anything comes back. And maybe a job comes back and they're like, hey, we want to pay you $20,000 more. Well, you could take that offer to your current job and say, hey, I got somebody who wants to pay me more money. If they go, no, we don't want to do that, we're like, okay, well then you have a decision to make. Do I stay at the current company, or do I roll to a new company and make more money? But that gives you the ability to kind of level up rather quickly, right? And if you do that every 2 years, it compounds. So my career path, I started off, I got out of, I was a salesperson in college at phone stores. That taught me a really valuable, again, skill set. It taught me how to do sales. So sales plus my degree plus my military background of legal, I had a pretty solid resume to go get jobs. And I had 24 different job offers when I graduated college. The one I chose was the one that I think I could learn the most, even though it wasn't the highest paying. And it gave me a much more clear direction of a career path, was JB Hunt. So I went to work as a carrier sales coordinator at JB Hunt, moved to Arkansas. It was paying $40,000 a year. Awesome. Good start, straight out of college. Caitlin, my wife, she started working over there too. So we had enough income that we were able to live and start to pay off a little bit of our debt, college debt, all that good stuff, right? So from there, I leveled up in the current company. I did really well. So they moved me up to a senior carrier sales coordinator. I made an extra $5,000 a month. I was looking at regional logistics manager jobs and branch manager jobs within the organization. I think I was up for one regional logistics manager job. I didn't get it because there was another guy that was more qualified. But in that effort too, I was also sending out a couple applications out in an area that we wanted to live. So, we wanted to live in Tampa. We wanted to move back to Florida. We weren't the biggest fans of Arkansas. No offense to anybody who's from Arkansas. It just wasn't for us. And I got an offer to come help build a pricing department and being a pricing analyst for Reed TMS Logistics. And they offered me, I think it was like $75,000, which at the time was a pretty big step up. That's almost double where I was currently at. Well, a little bit less than double. But it was in the area that I want and was willing to take that risk. So I was going from a big organization to a smaller organization. That's another, when you can go from like, hey, I've done big stuff and I go down to a smaller company, to help a smaller company get to a big company, really, really, really good way to make more money. So if you're at Google or you're at somewhere else, you do that for a few years, then you transition to a smaller firm or a smaller company or somebody who's reliant on Google, right? You can make a lot more money because your insight is valuable because you've done big things and big money and you've been where the organization wants to go. So they're willing to pay you more for that insight, right? And what you're able to bring to the table. So I did that. I promoted even within that company. So I went to strategic solutions manager. There was a little bit of a toxic work environment there, so I decided to kind of transition from that company. I went into tech startup world as director of digital innovation. So again, another level up. It was more for sweat equity and making some money, and it was going okay for a bit, but then it started to really fall off. I think the pace was maybe 100,000, but then it really kind of fell off because of a market shift. So I switched to program manager at Coop by Ryder. That one was 137,000. So that was probably another 2 years between that time period. So now I am 4 years removed from college. I'm, what's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 positions later. And I'm at $136,000. So I've 3x'd in 4 or 5 years. And I probably, if I stayed at JB Hunt on the same career path, I maybe would be at like 80,000. So I got an extra $50,000 a year because I took the skill set that I had and I leveled up positions and delivered more value. Now you still have to execute. You still got to work hard. You still got to prove yourself. You still got to deliver value. But that was how I created the opportunity. And then from there, I got headhunted again. My buddy called me up and was like, hey, I took a marketing job at this trucking company. I know that you're a great operator. And I even told him, I was like, look, I don't want to get back into, like, I love tech. I love technology. I love working at tech companies. I think it's super fun and interesting. And sometimes trucking kind of be a grind and it's like just continuous. So I was hesitant to get back into the trucking world. Well, the owner calls me up and was like, hey, come help me build something. And I was like, well, for me to leave where I'm currently at, because I was at a really good position at Ryder, I was making really good money. I was building up the program. I was doing some really cool stuff. I was like, I need a lot of money to make that shift. And he was like, no problem. I'll do, 150, build up to 250 to come on board. And I was like, done. So, I was able to do that where now I'm like, what's that? Double again. At $250,000. And then also he said, I have free autonomy. So the autonomy aspect too, where I can run side hustles, like own real estate. I can own, rental stuff. I could, do maybe a little consulting work. I can do other things to even further supplement my income. That is, and again, bolster my resume. I'm now able to, built a suite, which now I have a suite of equity in multiple different companies. I sit on boards. I am C-suite in several different companies. One of them is going to be a major windfall. But now I'm in the position of like, okay, now I'm deeply in the six figures. How can I get to $500,000 a year? Or how can I get to a big payday where I get a seven-figure payout? But I would not be able to get to this position, one, by the grace of God, that these opportunities have come through and that he's given me these abilities to do well. And I give all the credit to my success in career to God. I'm just really talking about the path that God led me down to get to this point. It was all about improving myself and then putting myself into the position where either the market's going to pay me more money or my current organization is going to pay me more money. And I think that's the biggest fallacy that a lot of people get sucked into is like, oh, I care about my company, so my company cares about me. Your manager probably cares about you, but at the end of the day, it's all about numbers. It's always all about numbers. You should know, regardless of what kind of position you're in, you should know how much money you are making the company or what that could monetize into versus how much you should get paid. So most organizations want 3 to 4 times the value out of an employee than they are paying said employees. So if I am getting paid $100,000, I should be impacting the company $400,000 a year in revenue, not necessarily profits, but in I should be generating that kind of money, right? That's my business organizations. That's a good employee. A good employee is doing 4x their value every single year. And you might think, man, it's a lot. They're getting 4 times what I'm delivering. They're taking a huge risk on you. They're paying for things. They're paying for insurance. They're taking a risk. There's also the element of opportunity cost. So if I take $100,000, because the company can put money into the market too. If I take $100,000 and I put it into a CD or I put it into an investment opportunity, an investment where I don't have to do anything, I don't have to manage anybody, I just get paid, can be anywhere from 5% to 25%. And that's me not managing an employee. So you as an employee are competing against that as well in terms of money creation, right? So they're investing $100,000 out of you. They expect 4x return, right? And that's reasonable because frankly, humans and the work that people do is one of the most risky things out there. It's super risky to take a risk on somebody. You don't know what they're going to do, especially in a work from home environment. Like, I have no idea if you're going to be, playing PlayStation and not actually working and doing the things I want you to do to move the company forward. It's a huge risk. So for taking on that huge risk, they should be equally compensated for it. That's how business works. More risk, more reward. That's true in life. It's not just limited to investments. It's how you invest in anything. So, if you can understand that as an employee, or if you want to start your own business and go down that path, that's a really good way to do it. Better your skill set is a really big one. Another thing is your time. So, I chose very early on, I want to work when I'm younger. I want to put in a lot of time and effort when I'm younger because one, I don't have kids and I want to spend time with my children as much as possible because I think it's really important. And two, I want to be able to enjoy life early. So if I put a ton of effort in the 20s and 30s, by the time I'm like late 30s, early 40s, I should be financially free and be able to retire. And I'm not decrepit in retirement. Why would I work until I'm 65 years old and not be able to enjoy it? So that's important to me. I think I always prioritize family, which is again why I love working from home because I can go have little Koa breaks and I get to hold my son and hold you Koa, and that is a highlight of my day, especially if it's a rough day. I need a little bit of Koa cuddle time, and it turns me right around. But I've decided early on, I want to work really hard early on. So there's some weeks I'm putting in 120 hours plus. I would put in 60, 70 hours a week at JB Hunt to make sure I was going above and beyond what everyone else was doing. So I stood out. One thing, I didn't go to Harvard. I didn't go to a big college. I went to the University of West Florida. I went to a D2 school. My degree was in supply chain logistics, so that stood out a little bit. But frankly, there was not much to stand out compared to some other people. So what I did to stand out was I outworked everyone. No one worked as hard as me. I was the first in a 5,000 person office. I was maybe top 20 first people in the office. And I was last 20 to leave the office. There were VPs that walk by my desk and say, "What are you still doing here?" And my answer to them would be like, "The work's not done yet. I'm trying to get ahead. I'm trying to make the company more money." I was on salary, so I wasn't making overtime. I was delivering significantly more value than the person next to me. I was top broker, I think, like 4 or 5 months. I got quarterly top broker in the first year of me working at the company. People would work years at the company, and I outproduced them. I had directors coming to me asking me for advice because their people would say, "Hey, I can't make money on this project." And then I would make 20%. And they would go, "How?" And I would explain my methodology and stuff because I studied, or I just sheer outworked and made more phone calls and find the right carrier to do the business. So early on in your career, put the effort in if you have the ability to. If you're single, huge benefit. I hope that you find the right person. I hope you find the love of your life that will take care of you and love on you and make you feel cherished. If you find that early, fantastic, because that could be a great help person. Your mother knew what she was signing up for. She knew she was signing up with a maniac who was going to work really, really hard. And I was very transparent about that. And she was very supportive of that. So that's why I'm putting in the efforts now to get us ahead so that she can, be a stay-at-home mom. That was super important to me. But make the move geographically. That's another huge way you can deliver value to a company, is fill a gap into another area or go into an area that has a higher revenue. So, going to New York or going to, a major city center, you're generally going to make more money. Now, your costs are higher, but if I'm making $1 million, again, this is maybe a wild example, but let's say I'm making $1 million versus making $100,000, right? And I'm out in a different area. Or let's do a closer example. So let's say I'm making $50,000 out in the suburbs. In the city, I'm making $150,000 for that same job, right? But the costs are higher. So in both cases, I'm saving, let's say, 10%. So the difference in pay and the difference in execution is the same. Well, at 10%, at $50,000, you're saving $5,000, right? But at $150,000, saving 10%, you're saving $15,000, 3 times the amount. So even though, yes, the cost of living might be 3 times the amount, yes, groceries might be 3 times the amount, you're still saving the same percentage, which is why people go to New York and California, and maybe those places frankly suck and they're super expensive, but you can make more money. So I make $1 million in New York, saving 10%, you're saving $100,000 versus maybe making $250,000 in the state of Florida, saving 10%, saving $25,000. So you suffer by being in these more tough environments or these bigger cities that are not appealing to live in, and you live in a little apartment, but you do it for 5 years, you save how much money, and then you move to an area that maybe you make a little bit less money, but you can have the same level of impact. But now you have a huge nest egg to either make an investment in your own company or just get you ahead in general, right? So that's another way that you can make more money. Move to a different area. Be open to change. Be open to things that other people are not open to. I want to stay in my small town. I want to do this. I want to do. Those are the people that will make $50,000 a year, $70,000 a year, and that's it. And there's nothing wrong with that life. If you want to choose that life, more power to you. But if you want to make more money, these are ways that you can make more money. And again, maybe you're not working harder in your current job, but you can create side hustles. One thing that I talked about before in a previous video, arbitrage. Figure out different ways to make more money and then use that money to invest. So the biggest thing too, if you want to make more money, don't spend all your money. I make more money every single year because my money makes interest. and my money supply continues to go up. So then the money that money makes goes up every single year. And I'm not pulling from it. I'm not taking money out of that. So it's continuing to increase year after year after year. So not only am I making more in my career, my investments are making me more money. Right now we're looking to buy a property. That's going to make me more money in the long run. Now, granted, it's going to cost me $25,000. Let's say $45,000 to get into that, and then my cash flow per year is maybe $10,000. So it takes me 4 and a half years to get back to even. But I could have that property for 30 plus years. So then I'm getting just on the cash flow significantly more money than I put into it, and then the property value goes up. So then I get money on that too. So you always want to think about the long tail of how things are going to play out. And the way that you can, again, play to making more money, setting aside, be diligent, work hard. And it's super cliche, but this is how you fight out of a hole if you get into a hole. And we got into a hole. I was trying to impress your mother, got us into a decent amount of credit card debt. And we had student loans, and we had all this stuff. And we were not making a ton of money to overcome this. But because of our efforts, we now have very, very good debt to equity ratio. I have an 800 credit score. My company is starting to build credit, which gives us access to more money and gives us access to bigger and bigger deals, which if you can make money with other people's money, that's the best way to make money. If you making money with your own money is great, but making money with other people's money is even better. So trying to understand those opportunities and how to position yourself is super critical. But at the end of the day, be flexible, understand how you deliver value, understand how you can deliver more value, and build yourself a plan to what you need to do every day to slowly increase your value over time. What's one thing every single day that you can do for a slight improvement? And then eventually you get to a place where you're like, wow, I'm already here. I don't gotta go nowhere else. I already deliver a ton of value. I'm cool making $250,000 a year, and have opportunities for something like I don't need to improve that much more. How I'm still looking to improve more is I'm looking to go get my master's degree. I'm getting more certifications. I want to become a better program and project manager. I want to understand how I can execute projects more effectively and be more organized in that regard, because those are things at my level at C-suite. If I can execute project after project after project after project, that's how I deliver massive value to the company, right? That's how we go from a $12 million company to $150 million, $200 million company over the next 5 to 10 years. And think about things in different segments. So you should have a daily plan, right? You should have a daily plan and daily goals. You should have a weekly plan and weekly goals. You should have a 2-week plan, 2-week goals. You should have them, or not 2 weeks, a month plan, monthly goals. Then you have quarterly plan, quarterly goals. Then you have a year plan, year goals. Then you have a 5-year plan, 5-year goals, 10-year, 15-year, 25-year. That's pretty much it. You're pretty good at 25 years. If you have all of these and they're all succinct, they all have the same thread of constant improvement through and better positioning. The farther you go out, the more the plan needs to be flexible. The closer you are, the plan needs to be more rigid. But having all this together, you now have a good mindset and vision of where you want to go. And if you do not have that mapped out, if you do not have that clear in your head, then you will be wandering aimlessly in a career or in life and not having direction. One of the other common threads, I hope, for my children, and my hope for anyone listening, is that God is a common thread throughout this whole thing. What is God's will for my life? How is God wanting me to be positively impactful? And that is also part of the flexibility. Man makes many plans, but God directs his steps, right? So I try to build in my overall plan kingdom-focused things. How can I bring more people to know Jesus? How can I make it positive and be a good, positive Christian influence. That is a really important thread that I try to build into all my plans. And I hope you do that too. That is another guiding light that I've had, is that Jesus leads me forward. And I do things to glorify him, and I do things so that other people come to know him and will be saved. Because at the end of the day, is money cool? Is money important? Yeah. And can money buy you cool things? Yeah. I really want either an Omega or Rolex watch. I really want it. I really want it. But I don't think I'm going to buy it anytime soon, because I want to spend my money on other things. There are missionaries that I want to support. There's causes that I want to donate to. And a $1,500 or a $10,000 watch, that could help a lot more people. That's a lot of money that can help a lot more people. Will I have it one day? Yes. When that $1,500 to $10,000 watch becomes a significantly smaller portion of my income, absolutely. But right now, that is a pretty significant amount of money, and I would rather spend that on missionaries going into the field to try to help people that are hurting and understand that. And I would rather that go to my church and churches that I support around the area that are doing great things. Because that is not a small amount of money. $1,500, $10,000, that can buy a lot of people food. That can buy a lot of clothing. That can buy a lot of pamphlets. That can buy a lot of time. $10,000, that could be 3 months for a missionary family. 3 months of them working. And that's another thing I think about when I think about money. Money is time. And what I mean by that is you should know what your daily and monthly nut is, yearly nut. How much does it cost for me to live at the current lifestyle that I am at? And you should have a certain amount of that saved up. You should have a certain amount of that guaranteed coming in, so that you know how much time you have in your pocket. Because that, when you have a lot of time in your pocket, now you have the ability to make moves that other people don't do. Someone that's living month to month, they got to be really careful. They got to be really risk adverse. They got to be really cautious in the way that they go about life, because they are on a knife's edge of their life being over. But if I have 2 or 3 years saved up, or if I have a decade saved up, now I can be a little bit more mobile. Yeah, maybe I lose a year, but maybe I gain 5 years. I have the ability to take more risks because I already have so much saved up in the bank, right? So some of these things to think about, and the way that you think about this is how you can really strategically build your career and make a ton more money. And I'm proof of it. I've literally done these things, and in a 5 to 6 year span, I have 4 to 6x'd the amount of money that I started originally making in my career. 4 to 6 times. And I, the amount of money I'm making, I am in the top tier percentage of people even in the United States. And I'm definitely in the top tier in the world. Not to toot my own horn, but the proof is in the pudding. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not like this super high. I'm a logistics engineer or logistics business executive. Those are the ways I've classified myself. I'm a technical engineer, but I've delivered a ton of value. So I get paid a lot of value. That's it. That's the root of it all. Make people a lot of money. Generally, they pay you a lot of money. Because if they don't pay you a lot of money, somebody else will. So, yeah. Again, root of everything. Be helpful, be kind, be courteous. Choose a career that's interesting. If you do something that you love, you're not actually working, and you'll be able to work a lot harder. So putting in 100 hours a week, 120 hours a week, it's a lot easier if you find it interesting, if you love it, if you're passionate about it. So choose something in that regard. And no, it's not all about making money. No, money is not everything. But money helps. Money solves a lot of people's problems. It really does. We got to eat. We got to feed our kids. We got to make sure the roof over our head is paid for. I also preach, though, live within your means. Help people first. Tithe comes first. That is another strong thing that has happened in my life. Tithing and God comes first in money. 100% of the time. And then also, I am not a miser, and I will help people. I will genuinely help people if they're in need. If I have the ability to, I will do it. If God calls me to do it, I want to be ready to say, yes, Lord, and go forward and make a positive impact. So that is, again, a major thread through my career and my life. God comes first. Help others. Choose something interesting. Choose something you love and that you're passionate about. And most of the time, God's going to direct you in that way if you're listening. So, and the only way to really be listening to God, you got to be in His Word. Got to be in His Word. Got to be praying to Him every single day. So, all right, that's this podcast. I hope it's helpful to you. Koa, I love you. My future kids, I love you too. If you ever need anything, feel free to reach out. But to everyone that's listening, thank you so much. Like, share. I hope I can make a positive impact in this world. I hope this is a way that I can do that. I hope you have success in life and in business. Have a good night.